What's up, star children, star people, the qualityest of stars? It's me, your host, Stevie, and I have a special little podcast episode check-in, retrograde reflections. You might, if you read my Mars and Gemini post writing letter update, when Mars moved into Gemini, I was making a lot of connections about how we're revisiting a lot of planetary themes from the various retrogrades we've had over the last few years. And so I wanted to return to that. And I think now is a really good time since we are halfway through this current Mercury retrograde. It's not our last of the year. We're going to have another Mercury retrograde at the end of the year, and we're going to have a Mars retrograde too. So this feels like a nice time to check in, see how we're feeling. We are more than halfway through 2024, and it's a weird year. I think everyone has felt a lot of uncertainty. I don't know if it's the Saturn and Pisces of it all, but yeah, it's something. So I wanted to offer you some reflections that I'm going to do here and now, but you can do these at your own time if you want to journal on it, or however it is that you can process this. But I have some retrograde reflections that are based on each planet and sign that's really getting activated right now in this retrograde reflection cycle that we're in. If you are listening, thank you. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please throw 5 stars, write a review, a loving review. I would appreciate it, so this can help more people find me. If you're here over on Substack land, hello. I love posting over here, and you can listen through Substack or your podcast apps or on YouTube. But if you are listening and you are in my free tier, this will hit a paywall eventually, so I would really love if you came over and supported. I post tons of free stuff, so please subscribe on my Substack. You're going to get tons of free updates. I just did one on the Venus and Virgo, and all the ingresses are always going to be free, but the weekly forecast, special episodes like this does come with a paywall because mama's got to eat, and I appreciate you supporting me and my work. I put a lot of time and energy and love and care into this, so please consider subscribing. It's $7.77 a month to join my third space. I love the angel numbers, angels all around, angel blessings, and basically for the cost of a iced latte a month, which you be treating me to, you get all this great stuff. So think about subscribing. I appreciate it if you do. Tell your friends. Thank you for the support. And let's talk. I'll give some. Let's talk about the Mars and Gemini stuff, and then I'm gonna get into. Okay, here's how this is gonna go down. Mars and Gemini. We're gonna talk about Mars and Gemini because Mars is in Gemini right now. It's going to be there till September 4th of this year. But the last time we had Mars in Gemini was, you guessed it, a retrograde. So we are going to be revisiting themes from the last time that we had Mars retrograde in Gemini, which was in, let me check the dates. Okay, yeah, Mars was last in Gemini when it was in a retrograde period. So it was direct, then goes retrograde, then goes back direct. So we had Mars in Gemini for I think it was 6 months. But the time that it was retrograde was from October 30th, 2022 until January 12th, 2023. And so we probably right now here in 2024 in this moment, we might be getting some signals from that time period when Mars was in Gemini and from that last retrograde, especially because we're in Mercury retrograde right now. Mercury retrograde is currently in the sign of Virgo. It is going to move into Leo tomorrow. Oh God, I'll write something about that. Actually, I feel like you already have the Mercury Leo thing. I'll link all the previous articles, and if you want to review anything. But Mercury is retrograde. It's in a mercurial sign, which is Virgo. And Mars is also in a mercurial sign, which is Gemini. So we just have a lot of Mercury activation going on during this Mercury retrograde. it means something. It means that there's going to be themes of Mercury really stirred up in us, especially maybe those themes of Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde from these previous years. And also, this will be in a little bit later. We had Mercury retrograde last year in Virgo. So usually the retrogrades for Mercury are going to be switching by element. So like we'll always have like, oh, all the Mercury retrogrades this year are in fire signs, or all the Mercury retrogrades this year are in water signs. Last year they were all in earth signs. So we had a Mercury retrograde in Virgo. But also this year we're having all of our Mercury retrogrades go from earth to fire signs. And then next year, all of our Mercury retrogrades are going to be in fire signs. So that's just how the cosmos works. It's pretty interesting. Big themes here. So we're seeing a lot of Mercury retrograde reflection, mercurial revelations in our realm of going from earth to fire. What does it mean to go from earth to fire? What does it mean to go from, something that's fairly concrete with your hands into something that's too hot to even touch, right? We'll get into that in just a second. I want to stay in Mars land because I just wanted to tie in and let you know about why they are even connected, because right now they're connected in terms of being in signs that are mercurial. So, I wanted to get the exact date. So I mentioned the Mars retrograde of 2022 was from that October 30th through January 12th. So October 30th, 2022 through January 12th, 2023. But because retrogrades slow down the process, a planet will stay in a sign longer. So Mars was in Gemini from August 20th, 2022 through March 25th, 2023. So like a long fucking time. we had Mars in Gemini, and now it's back. It felt like it was there forever, and it's here now, and it's here till September 4th. And so what the hell does that mean? It means we're getting revisited from the energy of that time period. And for me, I was just thinking back. I mean, I got married then in 2022. I got married twice, which feels really Mars Gemini. But I got married before the retrograde, doing like an elopement, just me and my husband Pablo, and then had a big family party when Mars was retrograde. And I remember, and maybe this is something to think about, even though Mars isn't retrograde, it is in Gemini, and Mars being this planet of action and movement and passion and getting our blood pumping in Gemini, a sign of connection, information, and also our friendships and like how we connect with others. And I remember getting married and having our big party during Mars retrograde. My thought was like, oh, well, being an optimist, I was like, okay, maybe this will soften any conflict, because retrogrades are softening periods. Like, not that the direct movement means it's hard, but it is just how it operates, and life is hard and things are hard. And so when retrogrades happen, now things can be difficult, but it's like, I always think of Mercury retrogrades as like making things a little tenderer, making it like easier to get in. And especially in Mars, which is so about pushing out, if it's retrograde, then it feels like it's an opening to come in. And so what I was hoping during wedding time, I was like, okay, well, maybe, this will make our family dynamics not feel like off the charts bonkers. I mean, Mars retrograde or Mars in Gemini, the last time Mars was there, I'm reflecting for myself, and please do this at your leisure at home. But from August 2022 through March 2023, I mean, I had huge upheavals in friendships and connections and groups and projects and group projects and businesses, and just a lot of clarification of, and I think maybe that's what's also being asked for when Mars is in Gemini, is who's in charge of what. Because Mars is really a delegator, right? It's like Mars is the planet of war, and war has strategy. War isn't just, random. I mean, I guess nowadays it sometimes feels like it, but typically, right, like historically, war is organized, war is strategic, and Gemini is really smart and quick, but also is really connected to others. So this wasn't the journal prompt for Mars and Gemini, but maybe we can add it in. I'm going to write this down. Is what the hell did I just say? Now I have to go back and listen. It's like, who's in charge of what? this might be like really big themes that are coming up for you. Maybe it's in love life, maybe it's in work, maybe it's in your just creative practices. Maybe you do have partnerships or do have things tied to others, but also the Gemini relationship can also be tied to the other parts of ourselves. Maybe we do balance two things at once, like we work a regular day job, but we have this creative practice. So like, who's in charge and who's in charge of what? For a lot of people working in creative fields, it can feel stressful to take on something to feel like a job, or like it has to make you money, or it has to do this thing. So I think this Mars and Gemini time is really ripe for figuring out like who's doing what. We need to clarify the roles of who's in charge. We need titles. And I know people can feel one way or another about titles, but titles means clarity. And it's like, I've worked a lot in television production, and what is usually great about that is the titles are really clear, because you have a call sheet. The production assistant only does this, the director only does this, the costumer only does this, because that's their role. And so if you're not feeling clear on what your role is, this Mercury retrograde is a really great time to reflect back to then. And also maybe what roles were you taking on from August 2022 through March 2023? Have those roles changed? Do you have a new title? Do you have a new position? Also, some people, I was having a lot of Jupiter activation at that time too. I was hitting really high marks in some career stuff, and I didn't like it. I was ready to change my role. I actually was like, wait, I don't want to focus on this specific business thing that I was doing. I want to focus more on astrology and art and, being a creative person. Like, how did I get stuck with this managerial role? But I'm good at managerial roles. I'm good at data entry. I'm good at mindless tasks. I'll blame my Saturn and Capricorn trining my Taurus, Sun, and Venus. Like, I can do work, labor, the grind, but I don't want to do work, labor, the grind. I want to make space and create and be the ideas person and be a producer and be someone that you can bounce ideas off of and make things better. That was okay. I think it's a little bit, I'm like, as I mentioned previously, I'm like into human design heavily right now, because it's just been really connecting for me. And as a projector, so there's 4 types in human design. There's generators, projectors, reflectors, very rare, and manifestors and manifesting generators. So I guess there's 5, but like there's one that's like a hybrid. Anyways, I'm a projector, which means I didn't realize, like, I have a gift where if someone tells me something, I can make their idea better. I just can. That's why I think it really helps me in terms of giving astrology readings, because if you tell me an idea you have, let's go. I'm going to pitch you how you can really make this happen, the steps you can take, the actionable items. Like, I'll give you a title and name. Like, let's bounce ideas. Like, I love the think tank energy. It just comes really natural to me. And not that I can't come up with my own ideas either. Like, I'm very cardinal in my chart. This is where we contain multitudes in terms of astrology. But as far as being a projector, a big lesson for them is waiting for the invitation. And also, I realized, especially during that Mars Gemini 2022-2023 period, and where I feel a little bit wiser now, is I'm not going to give you my input unless you ask. I definitely had to learn how to not give unsolicited advice. I definitely needed to learn where I was taking on so much more work than other people. And even though no one asked, like why did I delegate myself all this work? And, I can look up and down my chart a million ways. I mean, I'm like, this is, for me, hitting like my Mercury and my Jupiter with Gemini stuff. And also right now we have Jupiter in Gemini as well right now. So it's really amplifying those things. We're right on the edge of this Jupiter Mars conjunction that's building right now. And yeah, so what is your role? How has your role changed? And then I do have a journal prompt retrograde reflection for you for Mars and Gemini besides this, which is, where can you take more creative risks? Mars in Gemini, Mars is our risk taker. Gemini is a creative, a sharer, a storyteller. Where are you holding back? where are you operating? I know it's corny and cliche, but it's true, from fear. I can tell you where I can take more creative risks is like, I love talking. I love talking. I love making podcasts. I've had radio shows in the past. I love doing this stuff. And I need to get more comfortable on camera, video facing camera. I'm just like, now, because we just have so many different platforms to nurture, if you're a person that works, in terms of creating stuff that you put on the internet, and now each one offers a different thing. And I think what I've realized is like, I try to make it's like, I don't want to say it's lazy, but I try to make it like really streamlined, where it's like, oh, well, I'll just post everything on everything, right? Like, oh, I'll post that video I made for Instagram on TikTok and Twitter and Threads, and I am now into Threads all of a sudden. And if you are like not into the internet, you feel free to fast forward this part. But if you are, and maybe you can apply this to other things in your life. I guess that's what it made me think of, is because Gemini has its hands in so many different things. There's no way each thing is going to be perfect for those various platforms, because they offer different audiences and also different needs. I was realizing like, oh my God, like I started my Instagram as a personal account years ago, and I still like keeping it like this visual diary, and I like peppering in not just my astrology business nature, but also like the food I'm enjoying, the trips I'm taking with my husband, my cat. Like, I want to still share the things that make me me, so you know who I am, not only as an astrologer, but also as a person, and see if you connect with the energy that I'm giving out. If it's writing based, of course, Substack, and of course, like Twitter and Threads, like people want to read stuff over there, and TikTok is just the Wild West to me. It feels like such a place to throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks, to like have a little fun with. I know like trend hopping is like, there's a time and place, I guess. I have mixed feelings on it, which feels very Gemini. Like, I will only hop on a trend if I actually enjoy it. And I've watched other videos and think that was funny, or like I'm into that, or that I don't know, that just brought a smile to my face. Like, I like thinking of TikTok in this very like, I don't know, this is just where the funny videos live. This is where I go to like laugh and learn how to like finally, cut a mango correctly. Like it's both like humor and how to. And so I think now it's like, oh, wait, I can play around on all these different places, and it doesn't have to be this slog of like, oh, well, I toiled over this video, so I have to put it everywhere. I have to do this. And it's like, or you can just like let little things live in their little places, and then the people who will find you will find you. So where can you take more creative risks? I think I have been doing this, but this is a talking out loud reminder to myself, is just to like not feel like I have to have everything work for everything, and that I can actually like in very Gemini fashion, dabble and try a little thing here, try a little thing there. Because the more you're going to try, the more you're going to find out what is working and what isn't. Like, okay, nobody gives a fuck about these like lists, or like, okay, no one gives a fuck about your recipes. I mean, even if no one gives a fuck, still make them if they make you happy, of course. But we're here to test and try and dabble and see what we want to what we keep tending and trending back towards, and what we want to keep sharing, versus what just feels like a slog and homework. And I think Gemini doesn't want to do anything that just feels like mandatory, obligatory homework. This has to feel like the fun extra credit that you're just bringing into your life. Okay, yeah, so to recap, the retrograde reflection prompt for you is, where can you take more creative risks? And one that kind of ended up coming out just by talking and thinking is, what is your role and how has it changed since August 2022 through this March 2023 time period? Okay, since we were in Mars, let's go to Venus, because I wanted to put this out while Venus was still in Leo, but just the timing of it all, there's so much astrology happening, I didn't, so whatever. But because Venus is in Virgo right now, and I'll link to those posts as well. But the last time we just had Venus in Leo, and the last time we had Venus and Leo was also, you guessed it, a retrograde, which was last summer during the whole Barbie Oppenheimer summer. It literally started on like that Barbie release weekend. It's like a clear time marker. I think a lot of us can remember. And so I wanted to also get into some of the Venus things that are also getting softened and reawakened and reflected as we are in this like total reflection retrograde, like portal cycle. Like it's just like a full reflection mode happening. Oh snap, that's the end of the free teaser. If you want to hear more, if you want your retrograde reflections and journal prompts for Leo Venus retrograde from last year that overlapped with the Mercury retrograde in Virgo that we're in now, and Virgo Venus and Mercury Virgo. How many times can I say Virgo and Leo? But there's a lot of Virgo Leo themes happening. So if you want more, the second half of the podcast is available when you subscribe and up your subscription. So I hope you join me again for the cost of a cup of overpriced iced latte, delicious iced latte. A month, you get all this and more. And there's also a free trial. So if you want to try this out for 7 days, hack the system and listen, by all means. And I'll see you in the second half of this episode.